Alright, boys and girls, today we're on lesson 8.3 on page 455 called Unit Fractions of a Whole. Now the name itself might sound a little confusing, but really the idea I think is pretty simple and we should be able to move through it fairly easily. Let's look at the essential question. It says, what do the top and bottom numbers of a fraction tell? Okay, so we're going to look at that a little bit closer today. The top number of a fraction and the bottom number of a fraction. Oh, let me get my eraser out here. Okay, it says a fraction is a number that names part of a whole or part of a group. In a fraction, the top number tells how many equal parts are being counted. The top number of a fraction tells how many parts are being counted. The bottom number tells how many equal parts are in the whole or in the group. And I'll describe that a little bit more as we move through, okay? A unit fraction names one equal part of a whole. It always has one as its top number. A unit fraction, I'll repeat that, always has one as its top number. And here we have an example that says 1/6 is a unit fraction. So if I'm going to zoom in a little bit closer, you'll notice 1 right there is the top number. So it's just called a unit fraction because there's only one unit out of everything that we're looking at, okay? So 1/6 is a unit fraction. Let's look at unlock the problem. It says Luke's family picked strawberries. I love strawberries. They put the washed strawberries in one part of a fruit platter. The fruit platter has 6 equal parts. What fraction of the fruit platter had the strawberries? So we're going to find part of a whole, right here, find part of a whole. And it says to shade one of the 6 equal parts. And we're shading one of the 6 equal parts because if we look up here, there we go. They put washed strawberries in one part of the fruit platter. So this circle right here is our fruit platter, and one part of it is going to have the strawberries and they're red, so I'm going to kind of shade mine in or color mine in red. Alright, and there we go. Now, and it's red as 1/6, and we write it this way, 1/6, and it's 1/6. So what part of the platter had strawberries? 1/6 of the platter had strawberries. And it's that simple, boys and girls, okay? Moving down a little further, it says use a fraction to find a whole. This shape right here is 1/4 of the whole, okay? 1/4 of the whole thing. Here are examples of what a whole could look like, okay? So here we have 4 parts. That's the whole thing, 4 parts. And again, this part right here, each one is 1/4. That's 1/4. This is 1/4. This is 1/4. And this is 1/4. The 4 of them together make 4 out of 4, or one whole. And we can look at B as well. And we'll go to B here. There we go. And again, we have 4 parts. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the whole because we're talking about fourths. And C, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. So we can make it a few different ways. And in fact, in our next problem, we'll look at maybe even a few others. But let's look at this. How can you make a whole if you know what one equal part looks like? Okay. Well, if we know that this green square I drew is equal to 1/3, then we know we need 3 of those green squares in order to make a whole. So I could draw 1/3, 1/3, and 1/3. Now I have a whole. I have 3/3. Okay, so the denominator, this bottom number, is going to tell you how many you need for the whole thing. Okay, I needed 3 to make a whole. Over here, the denominator is 4, telling us we need 4 parts to make a whole. All right. Let's look at the next page. And keeping in mind, we talked about on this bottom one, we're talking about fourths, 1/4 right here. Okay, in green, fourths. So let's move to the next page. It says, look again at the examples at the bottom of page 455. That was the page we were just on. And draw 2 other pictures of how the whole might look. So they drew, let's slide back here. They drew, oops, sorry about that. Rectangle like this, 4 wide. They drew a square, a 2x2 square. And then they drew this shape with 3 on the top and then 1 on the bottom. So we need to draw 2 others that have 4, right? Like this one, and this one had 4, and this one had 4, but not the same shapes that they drew. So a couple examples I can think of, I could draw 1, 2, 3, and then make my 4th one down here. Okay, now's a good time for you to pause it. You can copy this one if you want. It'd be a good time to pause, draw at least 1 more, and then I'll draw a couple more as well, and you can check to see if your shape matches mine. But it needs to have the 4 squares to make up the whole, right? Because we're talking about fourths. Each little square is 1/4, so we need 4 squares. All right, go ahead and pause the video and draw a couple more on your own and see if you can match maybe a couple that I've done. All right, boys and girls, I'm assuming you've drawn yours now, and I'm going to draw maybe a couple others, see if I can think of something here. How about this one? 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we could draw something like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's slightly different than that one. Maybe it's just kind of turned is all. We could also, one thing you cannot do when you're drawing these is to do this. Watch, 1, 2, 3, and then put one like there, right? It's not really lined up. You want your corners and edges to all match. So I couldn't do that one. I could do, I could move it over here or something like that. That would be fine. But you can't like join it in between 2 and span that line here, right? So just kind of keep that in mind when you're drawing your shapes. All right, boys and girls, that's all I have for the video today. Go ahead and move on to the share and show, and once you're done with that, bring it up. We'll check your work. Again, for unit fractions, just a reminder, unit fractions always have a 1 at the top. That's called your numerator, and then the bottom number can be anything like 1/4 or 1/3 or 1/100th. Okay, but again, that top number, which is the numerator, needs to be a 1 for a unit fraction. The bottom number does not, and that's called your denominator. Right, boys and girls, that's all I have for you today. Do your best, work hard. If you need to rewind the video, please do so. As always, this is Mr. P, and I am out.